welcome back to the shack. Today we're tackling the spaghetti monster and putting new injectors in. 1, 2, 3, go! Alright, as you can see, we got the intake plenum off because we're going to pull the rails and change the fuel injectors. I already got one rail off and we already changed 4 of the injectors. So we're upgrading from a 30-pound injector to a Siemens Deca 80-pound injector. So it's about 800, just over 800 cc's per minute. If you're more familiar with that flow rating. So we're pretty sure that this car is starting to run out of fuel injector with the 30-pounders on there. So we pull it apart to switch them out. And unfortunately, you got to pull the whole top of the intake manifold off to get these rails out to be able to change the injectors. There's not quite enough room to get the rails out. So we already started that, and then we got this other one loose. And we're just going to pull the injectors out and switch them out and then move on. Actually, I'm also going to change this style. This is from this factory spiral lock or a quick connect or whatever you want to call it style fuel, OEM style fuel line fittings, because they're a pain in the butt, and the fittings we have, they're the steel lines that go from here to the lines on the body or don't fit well in the engine bays, so we're going to switch over to some hose probably too while we're at it. Okay, go. We got all the engine wiring harness and a bunch of the chassis harness that we're going to go through and kind of separate out some of the wiring and not so much really remove any of it, just kind of reorganize things and tape stuff up like this here in particular, and some of this injector harness I'm relocating one of the sensors, intake temp sensor, which is here. So I'm going to relocate to somewhere else on the engine. So we're just doing a little bit of relocating of wires, going through and cleaning some of this stuff up, replacing some of the loom, and trying to clean up the engine bay a little bit. Back in the engine harness, then we can move along and clean some of this up here. So that's the plug that we want to move. It was originally in this injector harness bundle that run alongside the driver's side of the intake manifold for the driver's side bank of injectors, and then that intake manifold, that intake temp sensor was out on the front corner of the intake manifold, and it gets heat soaked from the intake manifold, and so it reads a lot hotter, and so it can affect the engine's performance. So I'm going to pull it out of the wiring loom there, and I'm going to move it over to the passenger side of the engine, and we're going to put it into the intake pipe, so it's getting the intake actual temperature, air temperature from the intake pipe, and not in the intake hot intake manifold that's been heated up by the engine. We got some loom that we're going to put on here. We take our section of wire here that we want to put loom on, and you just kind of there's companies that make a fancy tool to be able to put this stuff on, but you just get it split. And then I found the best way is when you got the bundle, you kind of hold the loom underneath it, and then you can kind of push up on the bottom and have the split on the top of the wiring, and then it just kind of opens up and you can push it on. Might be kind of hard to hear because it just started raining. Got a nice looms section of wiring harness. Tuck this stuff back in that popped out. There you go, we got pocket. This is how I like to terminate loom, and it's a good way to keep loom from shifting. You can see it kind of wants to slide around on there. So you kind of pull the loom back, take your electrical tape, do like a wrap or two on the wire, and then put the loom on, and then slide it up over where you have the electrical tape, and then do a couple wraps on the loom. And so now that's attached, that's fixed to the wiring, so now your loom isn't going to come off, and it's not going to pop off. And then you can do that like we're down here where this wiring, and then like where your intersections where you got pigtails that come out of the loom. You do that, wrap your electrical tape, and then it'll keep your wiring from popping out of the loom, and it'll keep it keep it all in place the way you want it, and keep it looking neat, nice and neat. Alright, so we got our new injectors in and the rails back on and tightened down. We just got the plenum laying, sitting on here because we got to take care of some more stuff. We're actually going to put the plenum, bolt the plenum back down, I think, when we get the engine in. And then here I got this, this is the engine harness. Most of the engine harness. There's some other stuff that goes to the engine that's separate from the chassis harness. Got it pretty much all taped back up in the way I want it. And then all we got is two things left. Is the computer ECU ground that I need to fix. Here is kind of a terrible, got a crappy splice in it that I want to replace and fix. And then I left this wire and plug unloomed because this is from my intake temp sensor, as I mentioned earlier, and I'm not sure exactly. I'm gonna have to wait till we get this in and get the intake pipe on the car to figure out if I'm probably gonna have to extend this, so there's no point in putting the lumen tape on this right now. So I'm just gonna leave that out for now, and we'll figure that out later. So that's a pretty good start to cleaning up the loom on this, and I got quite a bit more left to do. It's just real time-consuming, tedious work to get everything kind of cleaned up on some of the chassis harness wiring. So thanks for watching. We'll see you later.